The next thing that I want to talk about is extracurricular activities. So when I was a 1L, I didn't do nothing. I was at Hampton. I was super busy, top looking contestant. I was senior class president. Just crazy, doing a lot, trying to be this big leader or whatever. So when I went to law school, I was like, I don't want to do nothing. I want to be a law student, and that's it. Literally, go to class, go home. That's all I wanted when I go home, because I was in the library. But that's all I wanted to do was my schoolwork. So that was the approach that I took. And I did that because I wanted to make sure my grades were right. So I didn't start doing any extracurricular activities until 2L year. Now granted, I did join BOSA, but I was literally just a member. I wasn't on nobody board, I wasn't a 1L rep, I didn't do any of that. And if you're doing that, and if you feel like you can handle that, then great, do it. But for me, that's the approach that I took. But I want to talk to my panelists about whether they did extracurricular activities, such as moot court or law review or what have you, and if you think it was beneficial to you, and any advice you have in regards to those organizations.
Much like you, I did the most at Hampton in undergrad, so 1L time came and I did absolutely nothing but go to class and, like she said, go to the library. And so it wasn't until I became a 2L that I joined some of the various organizations, but I still kept it at a minimum because I understood that I was still a student. But what I focused on, which is not quite like a lot of law students, I did a lot of community things. So I'm from Atlanta, born and raised, and so I figured that I needed to get it right with the community too. And so I needed to meet some attorneys who are in the position that I'm trying to be. So I joined a lot of civic organizations. So I joined YABWA, and I joined the Atlanta Bar Association, and I joined the Young Lawyers Division as a student rep. So I did those things because now it is helping. By now being an attorney in the community, I actually know them, so when it's time for jobs, when it's time for referrals, they call me or I call them. So I took a different approach with extracurricular. I joined BOSA, and I did like the Women's Law Society, things of that nature, but I kind of kept my extracurricular at a minimum at the law school, but made sure I knew everyone, but I more so did Atlanta civic organizations.
Excuse me, I pretty much did the same. I was a member of a couple of organizations just because I do believe it was a nice outlet. You can only study and retain so much, so I made certain that I did give myself a break because at some point you don't want to burn down, and I think that happened to a lot of my friends. When November came, they were burned out because they hadn't seen their family in 3-4 months. They hadn't seen friends in 3-4 months. So I would ask my friends before going into law school. I told them, okay, if we can pick and choose days that we kind of have a friend day or an outing, movies, let me know at least 2 weeks in advance so I can tailor my schedule accordingly, because I do want that outlet. I do want to talk to people who are not in law school and not talk about the law all day because it can be draining. So I think just maintain a nice balance, be a member, kind of get your feet wet, see which organizations you will be interested in joining as a board member, but still make time for family and friends in that outlet.
Maybe I was a little different, I don't know, but I was an athlete in undergrad, so I got to law school kind of like I'm done with class and there's no practice, I don't have to get up, or like, I don't know, so I did a lot of things. So I worked part-time, I was in BOSA, I was on our intramural championship football team, but I say 1L year you do have to buckle down, as I'm sure you know. 2L year is the time to give back, to join things, to try things out, because 3L year, as the 3Ls know, is job time, and interviewing, keeping up your resume, the intensity of your clinics rise. So you have less and less time to devote to other things. So I say 2L year is kind of that sweet spot to do what you want. I think I interned at the CDC because I think it was during Ebola. I don't know, I was just living because I knew that I did anything that struck my fancy, because once you are an attorney, and I can't think middle 3L year, once you start studying for the bar, and your life is literally never the same. It's great.
Yeah.
And we get paid to do things now. But don't get me wrong, but I think it is a time that you should enjoy and experience things.
Absolutely. So, as a second year student, I joined the mock trial team at Mercer, and I don't regret it. It was a great experience. I worked on my speaking skills, drafting opening and closing arguments, presenting evidence. I mean, that was a great experience. We went to Chicago for our competition. So, going to a new city was a great experience for me. I love to travel. And I think different organizations such as mock trial, a lot of you, they can offer a lot to you. It's great for your resume. But also keep in mind that you have to do something that you really want to do. So don't join mock trial team just because everyone is telling you to do it. If you want to be on mock trial because you want to do it, great. But if you're just doing it because someone else is saying you need that for your resume, you're not going to enjoy it. And the same with law review or moot court. So I hope that advice is helpful to you guys. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about and kind of wrap up with is networking. And Tabitha hit it right on the head with networking. It is so important. Come your 3 year, all you're thinking about is, I need a job before I graduate. I was the same way, and I didn't get that job before I graduated, and I now know why. That's a whole nother conversation. But networking is so important. Just about every internship that I had in law school, I had 5 internships in law school, from first year to third year, was because of someone I knew or met. It wasn't because I turned my resume in. It wasn't because of an application I submitted. It was literally a random email or a random phone call and someone saying, hey, do you want this opportunity? And I just went for it. So if you're not, first off, who's in GABWA? GABWA, the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys. Oh, no one's from Georgia?
No.
Okay, well, who's in your FABWA or your Florida Association of Black Women Attorneys or your, I don't know, Virginia Association of Black Women Attorneys or whatever you have in your city? I hope you guys are a part of those organizations and not just being a part of paying that little $25 dues or whatever it is, but going to the events. And I understand as a law student, it's like, okay, how do I go to class, move forward, go to networking events, etc. But this might sound corny, but we have the same 24 hours in a day as who? There you go. We can do it. We might have to get up a little early, might have to sacrifice a few hours of sleep or what have you, but it's all possible. If I did it, you guys can definitely do it. Take advantage, because literally, I promise my first job out of law school was from someone I met while working for a judge in Atlanta. And literally, I just kept in contact with her, went to lunch, and a year later, she emailed me about our opportunity. Literally a year later, and here I am thinking that whole time spent was wasteless. But it ended up not being that. So stay on top of that. And another tip in regards to networking is go on your bar website. So let's say you want to practice in Georgia and you went to Mercer and you're interested in family law. So on the Georgia bar website, you can literally search for attorneys and you can filter that search by attorneys that went to your law school and that are practicing in the area that you want to practice in. And what would I do if I were you? I would email every single attorney on that list. You can send them all the same email. They won't know. And you can just say,
They may not.
they may know, it's possible. But in my case,
They don't know each other.
Yeah, they may not. To their interest.
even if they do know, I didn't have any problems with. No one was like, you sent the same email to me that you sent to Jim. No one cared. So if I were you, send them all an email and say, hey, I'm Jasmine. I go to Mercer. You graduated from Mercer. I was hoping to meet and talk with you over coffee about family law. That's something I'm interested in. I know you're practicing in that area. Something along those lines. Literally, I sent that to like maybe 100 attorneys. Half of them responded, and about a third of them I had lunch with. When I was at 3L, I had a lunch or coffee with some attorney that I did not know at least once or twice a week. That was my purpose my last semester of law school. So we're going to end on that note. Great, yeah, you have a question?
As a 3L now, I just started because all of the bar companies, they're competing against each other. So in Florida, they're basically opening up the bar corporation as of right now.
Okay.
With that being said, as a 3L studying, so basically during this time, I've learned my study, how I like to study. So with being able to balance job search and being able to balance studying, should I be focusing more on doing my job search and networking and getting out of Florida, or should I just be like, does it require me studying so much right now at this point in time?
Great question.
You graduated in May,
Yeah.
and you want to you should start bar prep now before graduation?
No, I want to know, should I be focusing on job search and stuff like that? Being that bar prep is open, so because you know the general population they study for 2 months and they could, you know, and I'm confident I could do it in that time frame. Doesn't require me studying all the time right now.
No, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, that's not.
People don't really, now, take it with a grain of salt, 'cause I'm not in a big firm. I was, but nobody ever asked me my law school GPA. They asked me, did I pass the bar? And who I know.
Yeah.
So, I think you should I mean, it should be a priority, you gotta get out of there. But you can't, as I said earlier, you can't miss the forest for the trees, because what is this all for if you don't pass the bar? And what is this all for if you don't, if people don't know you enough to give you a chance? Because your counterparts who are whiter and maler, they uncle and they daddy and they know all these people. So that's why we gotta work harder. And that's why we have to work smarter. So I would rather you, I mean, I want you to do well, but I'd rather you get a B and meet the person who's you go walk into an interview and they're like, oh, then you study and you get a A in environmental law and nobody cares 2 years from now. You know what I'm saying? But I think you're asking the right question. And if you've gotten this far, you know how to time manage and you know how to split time. But I think you have to get into your mind, and this is kind of for everybody, 3 year is go time. And in 3 year to bar day 2 or whatever, I mean, we had 2 days in the bar. It is, you will rest later. And you just have to, and I sleep very soundly now. But at the time, you had to grind. You had to get up early, go to bed late, study all day, then go to this networking thing you don't feel like going to and talking about things you don't really care about. That's real. That's just real life. So I think that you are on the right path, and I think you just need to balance it all. But you're fine.
And honestly, when I didn't start studying for the bar until day 1 of bar prep. So we graduated May 12th, I think, and then bar prep started like a week later. I hadn't opened a book related to bar because I was doing other things. And I told myself, Jasmine, as long as you literally buckle down day 1, you should be able to tackle it within those 2 months. But literally, like, I was off social media. Like, I went to Emory for our bar prep class every day. I didn't study at home. I didn't watch any of those recordings. I was in class. The only time I missed was when I got sick halfway through and I had to have surgery. I literally missed 1 class. I went the next week and I had a little ice pack on my stomach and I did what I had to do. But yeah, you can definitely tackle it within the summer. But then again, everything I say, you have to apply it to you. You know yourself best. If you feel like you need a little bit extra time, then take that time out. You had a question for that?
I guess for like the 1Ls and the 2Ls, with like respect to networking, if let's say most of them are from like Alabama, Georgia, or Florida, and they're interested in coming to like Atlanta and they don't know anybody, how would they reach out to attorneys in the area besides like if they didn't come to an event like this?
Great question.
The city associations like Gabwa, if you're from, I mean, I was from Alabama, but I came to Gabwa events, and I just looked online, looked at the listserv, emailed a couple of people, and explained my situation. I'm from Alabama, but I'm, looking at different areas kind of in the southern region. I don't think anyone will tell you no. You're not from here, please stay at home.
And I would also say take advantage of your summer. So if you're a 1L or 2L and you know you're in Alabama for law school but you want to be in Atlanta, make sure you get that internship in Atlanta. Make arrangements so you can be here during the summer, and that way you can network literally the entire summer. I think that would make up for when you aren't here and if you aren't able to get here for an event during the school year.
You can pick some. What I did. So I worked in sports for my 2 years before I came to admissions, and I picked someone that had the job I wanted, and I emailed her, and it was nice of you. And I just said, like, you don't have to pay me, you don't have to, just have lunch with me, and or can we just talk on the phone, anything like that, and I